Good evening to all our friends and partners out there. Good evening. This is Reverend Dr. Aquilus coming to you live on our Afreig network. This is, it's interesting how we had that kind of hiatus as we were trying to reposition ourselves, and but we are back. We are back in operation now. Again, this is Afreig. We are Africans for the Restoration of Ethics in Government. We are a nonprofit organization that's designed to harness the expertise of professional Africans and non-Africans as we discuss issues of how our different careers and experiences and expertise can benefit the African people. And it's also a joy to come to you as regularly do in time past, and we're going to resume today. But it's also a joy to come to you to just have these conversations and present ideas concerning our beautiful continent and how we can help Africa become who she was intended to be. All right, we want to ensure that limited capacity, because one person cannot do everything, but the little we can do, and in this case, with this platform, is to instruct, is to teach, is to interview people, is to have dialogue and conversation as we look at the different issues impacting Africa and customizing solutions or presenting solutions that can potentially help Africa improve her services to her people and live a good quality of life. Today I'm going to be doing a monologue literally on government and the people. Government and the people. As we think back about the whole idea of government, the question comes, do we fully understand? Do we comprehend? Why government exists? Do we have a clear understanding of why government exists? I'm sorry, I had a distraction on my phone, but do we have a clear understanding of why government exists? What is the reason for which government has been put in place? To what end government exists? I think as we look, into the whole idea of government or governance, so to speak, it's something I believe that we are still struggling. We are still struggling in understanding the reason for which government exists. We are still struggling to understand what government is in the first place, because some things we see in terms of policies or in terms of laws or in terms of implementations, I think we see happening, it clearly depicts that there's a lack of understanding, there's a lack of knowledge in the whole idea of government or governance, so to speak. So I'm going to be looking at government and the people. Um, the question is, does government exist for the people, or does government exist to be served by the people? In other words, is government existing to serve the people, or does government exist for people to serve her? And that's a legitimate question because, as I said, if depending on which side of the aisle you fall, um, that clearly impacts how you, not just how you perceive government, but how you relate to government. And if you are working government, it clearly impacts your functionality. How you carry out your responsibilities as a public servant. So that was ask the question again: does government exist for the people, or does government exist to be served by the people? To answer that question, is one of the major things that I discover as I study, that not only as a doctoral student in policy, public policy and administration, but as I look into the whole idea of government, you know, there's this expectation, from people, from citizens, that government is there for them, or government should be there for them. And it doesn't matter where you go, and you ask this simple question, majority of the responses you will get is that people believe, and we believe too, that government exists to take care of our citizens. Government exists for the people. It's for the people. Without the people, there will be no government. Because the people that elect public servants is the people that put government in place. Is the people that give government the go ahead to function. It's the people that give government the permission to rule over them, so to speak. or to have jurisdiction over the actions and the reactions and everything concerning them. It is the people that give government that authority to function. So government, there's this expectation government should exist for the people, for the people. Um, but then when we look again in the real world, you see the essence here is that the point I'm trying to get across when you look at government existing for the people is that the people should be cared for, the people should be taken care of. Ever think about them? Government should examine, a government should get involved to improve their life, to improve their living conditions. Government should have programs and things in place that will provide the services that people need to live a better life, or to go to good schools and have the best treatment, so to speak. So government exists to take care of the people. That's the essence of government. When you think about it, you see this entire spectrum. That if government exists to take care of the people, then you see that the services government provide for the people begins with conception. It begins with conception all the way to burial. I mean, that's the entire spectrum. That the moment a child is conceived, governments are providing prenatal care. We know that. We see that all around us. That women who are expecting children, they have this prenatal care. They have that being provided for them to the hospital, where they go, they are examined regularly, and they are given, different health care, that they need, through this process until they physically give birth. So government concern or government involvement with the people starts with prenatal services, caring for those among them that have conceived and are going to give birth. And then all the way up to the time of death and burial. You say, what I mean, it's amazing. You wonder, what does that mean? I mean, even in death, when someone dies, government also have to ensure that the remains of that person is treated with dignity, that there will be proper disposal of that person, proper burial of that person. So when you look at the relationship between government and people, and you put it in the right perspective, from conception to burial, government should be involved. Government has a level of involvement in taking care of our citizens, in taking care of our citizens. Now, that doesn't mean, let me just share some caveat here. We're not talking about socialism here. Okay, because sometimes the question comes, if government is to take care of people, then well, government got to do everything for us. No, that's not what we're talking about. Okay, because in socialism, that's when government does everything for you. I mean, literally everything. Okay, that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is that government need to ensure that the services that you need, the services that's essential to your well-being, to your welfare, that those services are provided. Government has to ensure that through all your lifetime, from the time you are conceived, your mothers are getting the prenatal care that's needed for you to survive, eating nutrition, your nutrition, everything. Government needs to make sure that the citizen have all those services available. And then when that child is born up to the time of death and burial, government needs to ensure within the population that everything you need in this journey from conception all the way to your burial, that those services are provided within the population. Which means that when a child is born, got to make sure that dentist there, that the child got to be regulated once we have dental treatment, right? Cleaning and all those things. Government got to make sure that hospitals are well equipped to handle different diseases or different infirmities that may spring up, among the population. You got to make sure you have infectious disease experts and doctors available. Government have to make sure those services are provided. Government have to make sure there's a banking system there, that your money will be adequately saved and invested and things like that. Government has to make sure of all those things. Okay, so from the time that person conceives, up to the time that child is born, to the entire lifespan, schools, education, all the way up to the time of death and burial, government has to ensure that every service you need to live a good quality life is provided. Is provided. Now the question is why we do not see these things most times. Why oftentimes we see just a few countries, rarely care for her citizens. I mean, we see a few nations rarely provide those services that's needed, for their citizens. In essence, why is it we see very few countries really understand the true meaning of government, or the true reason why government exists. You know, why many governments, do not understand the true meaning of government. Why we see many government not literally, caring for the people. What is the problem? I mean, where can we pinpoint the problem, to be able to come to, you see, if you cannot find the source of the problem, you cannot come up with a solution. So the question is, why is it many governments do not literally meet the needs of the people? Why many governments they're not caring, they are not serving the people? I think part of the problem, because again, there's no cookie cutter approach here. I think there are a number of factors that explains why we don't see these things happening. But among those factors, it comes to this. I think there is a misunderstanding between people and process. Now let me say it again. I think there is a misunderstanding between people and process. All right. Now, what do I mean by that? You see, oftentimes we government hire people to serve a process. Okay, they hire people to serve a process rather than hiring people to ensure that a process that has been put in place serves the people. Let me repeat myself. I think many times the part of our problem, there's a misunderstanding between people and process. Our hiring practices, most times in government, in countries where people are not taken care of now, I think our hiring practice is such that we hire people to serve a process rather than hiring people to ensure a process serves the people. All right. In other words, you have this massive employment thing going on. You hire a lot of people to work for the federal government or the national government or the city government or the state. You have all these people you have hired. They are on salary. They are paying them to serve. You hire them for. I mean, what's the reason? Why did you hire them? Well, they got to serve it. So let's bring it. Let's make it more practical. Okay, for example, let's look at revenue. Okay, revenue collection. So you have this massive employment spree where you hire so many people to collect government revenue, right? You don't want government to be, people to owe government anything. If you owe government, you got to pay government money. So you carry on this massive hiring spree to make sure you have enough people to collect government debt. All right. So you have people that we that will use the computers. So and you have all these systems in place to collect debt, to collect revenue for the government. Right? So you have computer analysts, you have people that, using the computers, whether it's email, collection, sending email out there, reminding people you owe government, you haven't paid your bills, you haven't paid your water bill, like, whatever it is, you owe government this, you haven't paid your taxes, and you have people on the computer sending out these emails. Well, you even have some people on social media because now government is integrating social media in the operational systems. So you have people using social media to send text to people's phones, letting them know that bill is due and you owe government this. So you hire this massive amount of people to reach out to those that owe government to be able to collect a revenue, which is not bad, which is good. Then you hire people also to ensure that the revenue comes in. All right. And you begin to create different systems by which revenue is paid. So, for example, as you look at the changing scope of our world now, you don't have to physically go to the office to pay the revenue, right? In countries that are more improved, people pay on their phone. It's called, a text to pay or something like that. Or you use what we call Cash App or Zelle and things like that. Those are applications on your cell phone that is linked to your bank and that also linked to the government. Like you just use it and just pay whatever money from your account on your cell phone, it goes straight to the government. You don't have to physically walk to an office or government office to pay. So that's in the Western world, in the developed world. Okay. So you see all these easy way to pay government or to collect revenue that being set by government. You hire all these people to make sure that that process works, that there is no glitch in the system, that people that owe government money will pay the government money. right? So you hire them to make sure the process works. And we see this thing most time happens is operational and people are using it. It's easy to pay. You don't have to walk somewhere just from your computer or from your cell phone. You can pay your bill. That is fine. That is fine. But guess what? Oftentimes the buck stops there. That's where it stops. So you hire these people to collect all this revenue, and the revenue is collected. But guess what? It doesn't translate into community services and community programs to serve the people. And in most cases, people don't know where the revenue goes. You're collecting all this money, people paying government the debt. You have all these avenues of collection, but yet there's no roads. Yet there's so potholes on the road. Yet there's no good hospital. There's no good school. I mean, the entire infrastructure to care for people is depleted. It needs to be revamped. It needs to be rebuilt. But we hire more people to collect more money. So I think so that is the problem. At least that in my estimation, that's one of the problems. We have this misunderstanding between people and process. It's when you think about the existence of government, it's not just about hiring people, collecting revenue. It goes beyond that. That the revenue collected will serve the community, will serve your people. It will meet the needs of the people. It will provide the services they provide. So it's not so much about hiring a lot of people. It's not so much about people coming to serve a process, which the process now is to collect revenue. But it's people put in place to ensure the revenue collection process serve the masses. That the money collected, the revenue collected is put into it's appropriated into different programs and services that the people need to have the best quality of life that they deserve. That's why government exists. And that's where we struggle because until we get to understand that there's a misunderstanding that government does not exist for people to serve a process, but government exists to ensure will make sure that the process serve the masses. Until we figure that out and get to understand that's why government exists, we'll continue to struggle in caring for our people. We'll continue to struggle in meeting the needs of our people. All right, we'll continue to struggle. When government exists for the people, government understands that the revenue collected and the services provided are directed towards the people. It's for their well-being. It's for their welfare. They need these services. They need good hospital to treat them when they're sick. They need good school to foster education, innovation, and scholarship. They need these things. And so appropriation is made to ensure that these different sectors that the people need, these sectors are developed, are reinforced, and they are enhanced with the latest technology and things like that, so that the people are better off. They are better off. So the focus of government should be the people. It should be the people. Good hospital, good schools, good roads, and things like that. Now, as Africa, Africa, we speak towards Africa. All right. So as we turn our focus, as we look at the continent of Africa, as we look at our motherland, so to speak, and we draw our attention to Africa, we can see that the problem between government and process has been, I would say, our Achilles heel. That we never really be able to figure it out. And so oftentimes we see this problem exists that there was this cry, from the people that they are being neglected. There's this cry and this outcry and this outburst from the people that their needs are not being met by those reporting authority. We see this, we hear these things, we watch it played out throughout. It's all over. That people still struggling to understand. Why is it that we elected people to improve our conditions, but yet our conditions either stay the same or it gets worse. It gets worse. And sadly, it's often we see that this struggle exists. That the process has preeminence over the people. The process has preeminence over the people. And it focuses more on the process to generate more revenue rather than letting the revenue generated trickle down to meet the needs of the people. We believe that Africa ought to rethink priorities. Africa need to sit and examine herself. Leaders of Africa, government need to sit and examine themselves and get to the realization that it's about the people. It's about the people, not the process. Now, don't get me wrong. I believe the process is important. You want to make it as smooth as possible to generate revenue. You want to make sure the process is easy as possible. That is, it's not stressful. It's smooth sail. You want to make sure of that. And every now and then we revisit the process to make sure is the process working well. Is the process serving the people? Is the process bringing the revenue in quickly and process so we can divvy up and to meet these different programs we have in place to take care of our people. So there's a place where yes, you focus on process, but it doesn't stop there. Because the end of that process is it trickling down or is it helping the people? Is it helping the people? And that's where we come in. And that's what we believe that when it comes to social issues, when it comes to health issues and education, all those things, that it's not difficult to lead people. It is not difficult to lead people, so long you address their needs. So long you take care of their basic needs and create opportunity for them to grow and for them to think, to be innovative, to have this opportunity before them that the sky's the limit. So long you take care of the people, leading them is not difficult. They will submit to your leadership. They will they'll trust your guidance. They will respect the policies and the laws and everything that has been set in place because they will see that it's not just something on the books that has no implementation behind it, but they will see the implementation of the policies and laws and they will love government. They will respect government. They will have high regards for government. But if we only focus on the process and we never care for the people in a way that is practical, in a way that show them that we don't just love them in words, but we love them in deeds and in truth. If we don't show in practical terms through the infrastructure, building these different infrastructures, how's healthcare infrastructure, education, academic infrastructure. If we don't show them in practical ways, roads and bridges and things like that, if they cannot see that we care for them in these practical ways through the building of the different infrastructure, then they realize that we only care for process and not them. And we're only concerned about process, but then we're not concerned about them and their welfare and their children's welfare. So the end of every process, again, should be the people. Want to emphasize that tonight. The end of every process should be the people. It is not difficult, as I said, to lead people if they are your priority. It's not difficult to lead them if you put them first. It's not difficult to lead them if you prioritize their welfare and their well-being. It's not difficult to lead them. And government should always re-examine and reevaluate how you serve your people. Looking at different processes, how these different processes, how these different institutions serving my people, serving the people. And I think by doing such, you get to the place of realizing that, wow, government, leading people is not as complicated as we thought it is. As you look in our world, there are other nations that we call them developed nations that are taking care of their citizens, that are caring for their citizens, that ensure that the economic policies bring wealth to the citizens. That young people, 23, 18, 19, they can have innovation, develop apps and other things that make them billion years, at a young age. That government creating the opportunity for them to think, for them to, invest, for them to, be innovative and just the potential, sky's the limit. It exists in our world. It's not a fairy tale. It's not something, it's not a utopia. We see it happening today in our world in these developed countries. Africa can do the same. Africa can do the same. So always prioritize your people and always think and make sure that the process is not more important than the people. but that the people have more important, they are more important to you, and their welfare and well-being more important to you than whatever process that you have in place. Thank you again for joining me. Welcome back to Afreig, and we look forward to be with you again next week. And as we always say, as we conclude our segment, the motto of our organization is doing better by doing right. We believe Africa can do better if she simply does right. Thanks for joining me. Have a good evening, everybody. Good night.